Hello everyone, we are beginning our last day of the festival, and we begin it with the program which is dedicated for the children, for the adolescents, and for those who are just conducting their first steps on the way of animation. But we will not be that sad that this is the last day of the festival today. You will be able to see all of the airs in the recordings our YouTube channel. Today we will go on speaking about how stop-motion animation is created, and we will speak with the people who has such beginners but still rather approved experience in this sphere. So today we have the guest in the studio, that is Egor Bondarenko. We greet you here. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to tell a bit about you for our spectators. Egor was born in Kiev, and he found out animation for himself when he was 8 years old. Recently and gradually he went to the animation courses, and in 2014 he came to Novator Film Studio, where he began to create his first auteur film. So today we will be speaking about this movie, which has the name of Bottle. And I need to mention that the film itself has been acknowledged and selected and got lots of prizes and awards at the Ukrainian and international festivals. So, Egor, I give the floor to you. I know that you've got something to share. I mean your experience, so please would you begin your speech with what was the beginning of your way to animation? So how did I find it out? Yes, how did you discover it? How did it begin when you were 8 years old? Well, first of all, I wanted to say that the whole Bottle film is over here. Bottle is just the package from some mattress, I would say. Well, I don't know whether it witnesses about anything, but still. The whole Bottle film is here and on the table. I put the most interesting points onto the table. We'll come back to them from different periods. You've got lots of works which I have created when I've been just a child. For instance, this is the hand, which opens the cork from the bottle. Then, coming back to your question. Well, I found out and discovered animation just accidentally with my friend and with my brother. We just were watching some interesting videos, some toys which were animated, and then I understood that this is the sequence. This is how you do that, moving one by one, and then it's working. When did you see that? In the TV and online as well. There were rather funny things there. And then I began it with my toys. I began to do that with those of mine, and I liked it, and then it was better and better, getting better. So there were certain plots, and of course I understood that there were some original and atmospheric things then. I even feel now, though they were tiny, but it was the whole thought-through universe. So of course those were some of the action movies with Lego dolls or any other ones. But then my mother saw that and said, yes, there's something in it. Let us try to find certain options which courses you could go to. She wanted me to do that and to draw as well, but I was a boy. I wanted to have my pastime as I wanted, just to play. But when I began to do that, it has become much more and more interesting. I was working in lots of studios. Before I came to Novator Film, I was in 2 other schools. And how can I say? I took something from each of them. And at the second studio, where I used to be, the mask studio, the animation was a bit of an additional course, and then the director of the studio forgot that they have it at all. But at the same age, I invented the story about the bottle. This was the story for the school. I wanted to create a story about some unliving, inanimate object, but for it to become living. So maybe let us watch. We have some parts of the video from the bottle, 2 bits, to understand. So you just saw this hand. In fact, this is the episode which I liked most of all. during a certain period of time. This episode was added as the last one out of all I shot. And this is how I created it when I was just 13 years old. So that is almost 6 years ago. Or maybe 5. Well, time passed by, lots of time. And I wanted to add it because you can hear music here, and my brother helped it with the music. He's the composer himself, and he's also a performer, a very talented one. And let us instantly show the next reel. Yes, let us see the next video. So I can see instantly that, yes, I took some of the bits, some of the parts. Lots of the things were not in the final cut. I've done much more, but lots of that was cut out. And now I would do that in a different way, but still I was happy with the result. You could just see the glass blower and his silhouette, so it should be a character. Here he doesn't have the head because it's somewhere in the rest of the bits of the bottle, but that should be the colored character, which I decided not to use anymore, so I created a silhouette only, not to add anything extra into him. But as you can see, the techniques were totally mixed. Here is the fire, which you just saw. This was frame-by-frame animation, and in this way we combined both stop motion and simultaneously frame-by-frame animation and the drawn one, so this is a kind of a mixture. Well, there are some other details from the previous episodes. I can show them as well if you want. Well, yes, you could. Well, this is the glass. It's rather big, and everything what was inside was animated separately, but then I had to put it up together using the computer. So first, would you tell about your gradual steps which you did for the picture to be collected then all together on the computer? Well, first of all, I'd say that there were certain sketches, how I can see that, rather approximately, but there was a storyboard there. It was a big board. I did not take a picture of it, and I did not bring it here, because it's huge. And it had all the drawn frames, frame by frame, how the film is developed, and the approximate length. But as for the layouts, totally drawn through separate episodes, well, I didn't have anything like that. Well, first I created the first episode like this, in this style, and using it as a reference, I created all the rest. I did it how I felt. So first, when I created them, I was trying to create the texture, looking simultaneously at other authors who inspired me then, and then I came to the conclusion to have this water paint and the pencil texture and with gouache and the with the use of the white acrylic. So then I had to cut it out separately, took a picture using the green background or any other background, but still to have the contrast, and then I had to glue it together. But why did you use this technology as well? Honestly speaking, I cannot answer this question now. I just liked it now. But there were certain things, certain points. There were other works done like this in the cutout animation, which I liked most of all. There was the Canadian film director Frederick Bach, who really inspired me, and he had certain cutout animation as well. And also, I saw the works of Mikhail Chemela from Belarus, who's also creating partial cutout animation. He uses different technologies, but it's rather still stylized, and they're so well as well cut out. So just to feel the movement during the cutout, it's much easier to feel the movement than when you draw, because I drew not that well, so I wouldn't be able to draw the movement in a nice way. So for me, it was not too much of a burden now. And you began to create this project when you were 13 years old. 13. So this is a kind of, well, you used to be a child, but you decided to perform such a full-scale work. When did you end it? When I was 16. So the work was for 3 to 4 years. Yes. It was not the work from early dawn till night every day, because simultaneously I had school and other things, my drawing courses and just being lazy. All that was together. So during the summers I did not do that much, but then I created characters and animated them for several years, and as for the last half of the year, it was of course the editing and the sound design. Yes, sound design and sound mix was totally done on my own. I had to record it and all the rest. So, should I tell about the process again? Yes, if you have something to add, would you tell about the different sequences for me not to interrupt you? But of course I've got lots of questions for you. Okay, let us have the questions. Who helped you during the process? Directly. Because I do understand there were certain people, but who inspired you? Who helped you directly? Well, it turned out that I was working at Novator Film Studio, and also we had the professionals shot then, so we had the whole staff, and Stepan Mikolaevich, first of all, of course, whom I joined, whom I told about my project, so he began to properly direct me and to push me in the proper direction, to advise me. And Katya Voznitsa helped me a lot, really a lot. Thanks to her, I could understand the total app, and also all of the episodes were totally looking properly after communicating with her about those episodes, and also to how to organize them. So the animation in After Effects, when I had to speed up the process, Katya had incredible experience in that. She really helped me. So it was much easier for me to make it manually, and I did not do that in After Effects that much. So yes, both of them are in the titles as my artistic mentors. They are really my mentors, whom I'm really grateful for. Did you have any expectations that your project is acknowledged somewhere in Ukraine or at the festivals or abroad as well? Well, honestly, I don't know. In the end, I just wanted to finish it. I just wanted to finalize this work, but then to think whether it is to be selected maybe or not, I did not think about that much. But of course it was rather pleasant and surprised, because Linoleum was the first festival where I took part and where I was present physically. I could come and see it. So it was really impressing. And there were also authors who in fact inspired me, like Sashko Danilenko. I was really amazed. Wow, I thought, well, this is my kind of an achievement. That is super. So that was really pleasant. And it gave me an opportunity to visit certain even locations, and for instance Truskavets, where there was a certain festival. Which festival? The Crown of Carpathians. The Crown of Carpathians, this is where you got an award. Well, yes, for the best film direction. Yeah, I got an award there, but in fact I even forgot what was the category. In animation. Yes, animation category? Well, I forgot that. Because in a parallel, simultaneously, we had the creators of the Ukrainian movies, like bigger ones, like serious ones, like Maestros and just gurus, and I was really impressed that I'm just among those people. That's what I got, and it was rather interesting. I can still have this crown, this award on my shelf. But do those awards inspire you to create any new projects? Well, honestly speaking, I don't know whether those are the awards. They are rather pleasant, like accolades that my project was acknowledged. Then it explains that maybe someone has seen something in it. Well, someone. That's a subjective opinion, but still. Here was some idea. So what a wonderful idea. That is what inspired me. So my bottle has become what it should be. But still I'm more inspired and pushed by some other newer ideas, and I wanted to create them in a different way, with a different approach to achieve the next level. This is what pushes me. But of course it's rather pleasant when you are acknowledged and with your work. But as you came here to share your knowledge, would you please tell if someone takes this technique and uses it in his or her project, for instance, the paper card back, what would you advise to the people who would begin to work in this technique? How can you avoid any errors? Which errors did you have? You mean the paper cutback? Yes, the paper one. Cut out animation. What are the drawbacks? What are the advantages? What would you avoid in the cutout? Well, I would say that, well, the advantages are that you can select any style. For instance, this is how I drew a bottle. Then I decided to put some eyes on it. Let me even find those eyes. Though you cannot see them that well, but we can understand that those are the eyes added on the surface. Well, maybe you don't see it. This is a tiny eye on the bottle. So cutout animation allows you to create the well-drawn style. So you do not to draw the same for several times, the same character in different details. And also the cutout animation can be stylistically rather well painted and complicated, but the drawback is the movement, of course. To create an interesting movement in the cutout, you need to create lots of replaceable details, and what I personally would like to change, what I really like and don't like in other films, is the lack or the presence of the movement. If the person creates frame by frame, or even the doll, there can be the movement in the depth or just outside the screen, which creates the volume. But here we could see that it was just moving along the axis from X to Y, and there were no volume at all. And that's a pity. It can be solved, in fact. You should just draw properly and timely manner the profile and all of the ways of the bottle. Well, the episode when the bottle was falling to the flowers, it could be done in a different way. I could do it from the side, and we could see only one part of her mouth and only one eye, and to make it a close-up. So just to draw with the vision how you want to set up the camera. What else could I say? Well, I can see that you just had to draw several, well, maybe not even several, but lots of stages and phases. Yes, well, it was not in the videos here, but if you look, there used to be the kind of glass counter employee, and there were lots of phases of these his heads. Well, it was pleasant to create, but still this work was not that needed, in fact. We need to avoid that, because I drew lots of similar phases of the face, just to change the position of the mouth, though I could just leave the same head and to create the mouth on it, which would be cut out separately. It would be much easier and quicker, and maybe it even would look better. But frame by frame it used to be there. And those are the separate legs of this character, and the body was separate. But as you can see, they are of different sizes, so I had to correct them on the computer to make it like this. And there used to be hands and arms, but he was animated on the computer, using the computer. So if you do the frame-by-frame animation, you should do that only if it's necessary, to make the movement in the depth or to make the proper part of the body. But to work with the backgrounds, we could see, well, you don't have any backgrounds on you now, but still we saw them in the video. Well, I don't know where they are. Yes, they were drawn out manually, right? Well, the essence is that I wanted to create a texture, so I took the sheet of the water paint paper, then I put some monotonous paint and had the pencil layer as well to have the whole water paint paper and watercolor paper, and wanted to make it a bit of a transparent, to see this background through the details, to make it a bit of more graphic. So this was the background. Lots of the things were glued together on the computer. At the studio, we had a kind of a paper, a kind of a stylized one, which you could see in so you could take the part of the wallpaper and to use it. Yes, I just took the wallpaper, took a picture of it, and put it onto the texture, and then I could use it in the volume where we had the scene with the bottle, which was the last to be produced. We even had the play-doh which we used, so you could see the angle there, and it creates the effect of the volume. So it was not computer editing, no, we did it in After Effects, and we could add certain X's there and make it to have a bit of a shadow of the light, and here it worked as a volume. Cool. This is the first question here from the viewers. Roman, who used to be here as a guest yesterday, is asking, do you have enough of patience for such piece of job? Honestly speaking, I don't know how to answer it. You never thought about that? Well, you know, it can be different. Sometimes I have patience, sometimes I lack patience. But when you lack patience, you still need to work. Well, yes, then I just sit down and begin to work, and then it comes one by one, it's working, and sometimes it's working. But when you know that a certain piece of work needs a certain amount of patience, and is it hard for you? Or you just have this encouragement, I will begin and it will be done. That was a different way. There were different episodes, and I had different attitudes. This episode you have just seen is my favorite, because, first of all, I was only a beginner, and I began to get to know all of that, and everything I created was the new experience for me, so I had to teach myself as soon as possible. So I really got the huge piece of fun to create this kind of movement and motion, and then I had enough of patience just to get this fun from the result, from the outcome. So when you're finally happy with what you've done, then the patience comes to you on its own. But I know that you practice that, you just draw that frame by frame. It's the drawn 2D animation in the process. Do you like it? Well, I even like it more. I did not work that much there. There was an opportunity to work at Novator Film there, but not that much. So honestly speaking, there's a totally different feelings. But still, I like the result and I like the process still. To find out certain answers, responses for certain questions. Well, maybe I just misshaped the answer, but still, to make to find a solution, how it should be drawn. And this is cool, I can find the solution, that's what I like in it. The same here. When you just need to sit down and begin the work. I've got the next question for you. Bottle is the project which was finalized which year? In the beginning of 2018 it was finalized, but in the titles it's written 2017. So, but this is the film which you have created, you've overcome it, you've lived with it. What's further on? Well, who knows? But do you plan to work on and to create your own films? Yes, sure. When I used to be and to begin to work, to create that, when I was 12 to 13, I thought this is my calling, this is the calling of my life, and I don't want to do anything, it's my vocation, I don't want to do anything. But when you grow up, when you're brought up, there are certain doubts whether it's worth doing, is it what I really want? But if it's working, and if I can express something in that, and to find some other job, then why not? I will study how to do that and work further on. So let me ask you, where will you study? That's a nice question. I will study in France. This year I went to the Gobelin School in Paris. That's a very cool school. Yes, it's a very cool school. A nice one. I'm really shocked that they selected me, but it's really pleasant because it's nice because there are some Ukrainian students there. I don't know whether there's only one Ukrainian student or several, but there are certain people coming from Ukraine there. So you're not only going on with your way into animation, but you also go on it in a very cool way in France. Yes, true. So how long do you plan to have this tuition? For 3 years. It will last for 3 years, but this is the bachelor's degree. And then 2 or 1 year, I don't remember, the master's degree. So this is a kind of a more professional project. It's kind of a thesis of mine. So of course, mostly they created a certain reforms process because they will invite the ones who had certain professional experience, who want to improve their skills even more, they're working intensely onto their own project. So you could say that when you graduate, you will have one more auteur film of yours. I do have some expectations and hopes for that. Well, because there will be the work among the people there. And I had certain experience of a kind of a teamwork, but here it will be a bit of a different thing. I will have to listen to the opinions of all of the people. I will have to respect the others, the opinion of the others, which is also worth attention. That is why, well, I don't know whether this will be my individual. I would say it would be my collective project, but everybody would try to invest something from his or her own. Someone will create the characters, someone will create the animations, someone will do the storyboard. So everything is intertwined, but I think still that it will be a kind of my own project, because everybody is a director and the animator, everyone is creating all of the roles and playing all the roles simultaneously. What was the procedure of getting into the higher educational institution for our viewers? Maybe people didn't even think that it's possible to come to France and to study to become an animation director. Maybe there's such a scheme of certain stage-by-stage actions. What do you need to do to get into French school? Well, it depends on the school. They are rather diverse. Those who are specialized on the cinema auteur, they can look at certain individual emphases of yours. They want to see some original works of yours. They want to see your own projects to find out your own style. Some of them claim more practical knowledge, the skill to draw some anatomy or the animals for everything to be done properly. This is where Gobelin is moving to. They would like to have certain individualism, but still they want to see that there's some practical reflection. But first of all, when this idea occurred to you, what do you need to do? You need to go to their website to knock the doors. Yes, you need to go to their website, and the majority of the schools, especially art schools, they've got the program which is French language for the locals and English language for everybody who has such a desire. And depending on the program you'd like to choose, this is which you should apply for. So you just come to the website. Lots of the schools have an opportunity to take your documents with your applications, and almost all of the higher schools, I mean institutes, art institutes, they are connected to the and united into the system of an overall school, French schools system, higher schools, where you can apply documents to different higher educational institutions. This is an overall website, and almost all of those schools can be found at this website. But simultaneously, almost all of the schools have their own options of application of the documents through the websites. In the Gobelin, you create your own cabinet at the website where you need to show your portfolio. After the reforms, it has to be in the format of a Tumblr, where you show the whole portfolio of yours, all of your works. but it's highly desirable for them to move into the direction of animation, for them to be a bit of graphic, sculptures, any other interests like photography, composition, so anything which could be useful in animation. And considering whether you are multifaceted, well, I don't know, well, they can see something in you finally, and first they select the first part, the first group or batch of the people. There are stages, yes, there are several stages. The first one, when they select the first part of the people, then we have the oral exam, and then they talk to you which works you have already done, and this year they have created the reform that you don't need only to apply with your works, but 5 more works of other authors, for them to see whom you know out of the authors or who inspires you, and whether you're so cool that you know these or those works. Wow, he's so clever, they would say. Yes, yes, I'm so clever, I would say. So, such a clever guy who selected nice works, this is how it's taking place. But earlier days, before that, it was done in a different way. They had a written exam, but they cancelled it. But this year, all of the schools just cancelled the written exams because of COVID, and the time period was April and May, when it was a bit more scary, though we don't know how it will happen further on, but still, all of the written exams were cancelled and replaced by the portfolio consideration.
And either some kind of home task that you had to do given by them. There was one school in Lyon, Milcol, which is also really good. But it mainly trains practitioners who are working with illustration and animation. So everybody who would like to be a professional. And you had to submit 6 works dedicated to different topics. 2 of them about characters, can be anything. There can be some drawing anatomy, some character or some body or family member or an animal. 2 more, interior or exterior, and 2 more, some items. So I drew my shoes, not these shoes, I have nice shoes. I painted them using colored pencils and a telescope that we have at home. Also interior of a workshop, exterior, something that you see out of your window because I didn't go out that much. I also drew my family members, and also I had a monument with a person shooting from an arrow, so I simply drew it with an ordinary pencil. And on the website you can upload all of your works, and then they reply to you. They told me yes, I was accepted, but it was already after Goblin and you had to refuse, you had to choose between them, right? Yes, but the thing is that the dates when they tell you yes or no sometimes do not coincide, so the difference between them can be 2 or 3 weeks. And this can mean a lot, because some schools require you to sign the documents right away, so they contact you, you either sign it now or never, and you're like, wait, but if I have to sign them within a week and only 2 weeks later I'm gonna get a reply from other school, what do I do? So sometimes it doesn't allow you to choose. You just have to come to terms with what you've got. But everything that happened was a wonderful thing. Let's put it that way. Cool. It's great that you managed to enter such a prestigious school. Do you have any ambitions related to animation production in Ukraine, or maybe your personal plans? Do you have some? To be honest, I haven't been planning in long term about what I will be doing after I graduate from school. I think something's gonna come up. There are stories that I can tell, and given that now everything is gradually developing in Ukraine, well, of course, it's not clear what exactly is going to happen with culture in Ukraine, how people treat it, what is the state's attitude towards it. So currently everything is quite uncertain, so we'll see. But I hope that everything will be fine. I will definitely be conveying something even about Ukraine through it. Do you follow some of the Ukrainian animators? Who of Ukrainian inspire you? Stepan Koval, Novator film. I guess I've seen almost all of his works, and I especially like his earlier works that were done by Stepan Koval in that studio. And to be honest, over the last time, I haven't been following lots of things. I had a list of the things that I want to do in summer. I want to read that and that book. I want to watch this and that. And lots of other things that I had to do at home. That is why I was not really following anyone. Out of the ones whom I follow is Danilenko, or sometimes simply going to Linoleum's website. Have you watched our program? No, not yet. You have half a day left. Yeah, I have half a day left. Well, that's okay. Maybe somebody has already recorded some of the videos. I can watch them later. I wanted to ask you one more question. Meanwhile, I'm gonna change the position of my legs because they feel slightly numb. And here is, by the way, the vase that you saw in the end. It had huge eyes, but this is all that I have left. I wanted to ask you the following. You say that you're reading something, watching something, that you're doing certain things in your life. What topics would you like to convey by means of animation? What pushes you to do that? Maybe your personal reflections. What do you want to tell through animation? You know, the thing that I like about animation is that it gives you a broad range of things that allow you to convey emotions and thoughts. So I'm thinking about getting closer to something lyrical, poetical, metamorphosis, something that is at the same time abstract and is conveying certain idea. There are lots of different thoughts, and I'm not sure which one should I demonstrate to not get lost in them, because there are lots of things, but you have to make a decision about how you want to do that and how you feel. Sometimes I don't know how can I do that. Sometimes I sit down, start drawing something, and I don't exactly know whether I want to do it this way or not. Is it right or not? So the thing that I like to have is finding a compromise between the style, how properly choosing a story, so that you find the style that could help you convey this story as good as possible. To strike a balance between what and how, so that at the same time it is interesting, so that everybody's like, what a good thing, what a smart thing, how intelligent, how sophisticated, so that it all complements one another. So striking a balance between aesthetics and idea. I'd put it that way. But I don't know anything yet. I know that I know nothing. This is nice, being humble in such a way. I think that, for example, the bottle already was praised a lot, and I know that this animation still keeps traveling across the world. I'm gonna get something out now. Here's a hand. This was one of the hands, right? I don't even remember whose hand is it. Maybe a grandma who picks up the bottle. I think that this is her hand. And this is a foot wearing a sock. There should also be a slipper somewhere. If you want, I can look for it while you're asking questions. While you're asking questions, I'm gonna keep looking for it. You could tell the viewers what was the ending of the battle, because not everybody saw this film and we didn't show the whole of it, just some bits. Why did you have an ending like that? The ending, well, I was 10 years old, and this is when I came up with an ending like that. But from the very start, your script, when you were just starting to work on it, did you know that you'll have the ending and what it will be like? Yes, because I know that very often a problem of the script is that sometimes there is a story, a beginning, but you don't know how to end it. I was lucky because this story was written by me when I was in the 5th grade and I already had the ending. It was not the problem. A bottle that turned into a vase that wanted to carry something beautiful, to look pretty, wanted to change, and she did. She did it probably on her own, or maybe because of circumstances, maybe she made a decision, but in any case, this is how it turns out. The question was rather, how can she reach being a vase? How can you implement this transformation? Because initially the story was slightly different. And after the second half, the whole film speeds up, in my opinion. This is what I would like to change in the future. In the beginning, everything seems to be, how do I put it, properly distributed and slow, and then it's like bam, bam, and you get a vase. But the most important thing is that you knew where you're headed. Yeah, let me also show you. These are the characters that were in the room. The fragment when one of them lays down. So you were trying to show the perspective, yes, so that we could see, for example, his shoe sole. He had a pillow. He lay down on a pillow. You could barely see the pillow, but still, it is nice drawing a pillow. I enjoyed it a lot. And also here you have some others, and this is a chair. You have some experience. You implement one project. You achieved certain things and you can share your experience with others. So could you please tell our young viewers, the ones who are only taking first steps in animation, what could you recommend them? Where they can go to in Kiev or other cities in Ukraine, some pieces of advice how you can start doing that to become animation director in the future. Well, there are studios. I don't know all the ones that train you. For example, the Red Dog, do they have some training course? Yeah, I guess they do. This is a good opportunity, judging by what they do and their results. But if I give an advice, well, just do it, enjoy it. And another important thing is find not like-minded people necessarily, but keep in touch with people who also share your interests. And maybe they have slightly different tastes, but the ones who are also interested in the same field, so that you're among such people, because it will be of great help in the future. It will help you to pick the right path, to better understand what to do and in what direction head. Does it help you to constantly watch different animated films and movies? Say when you're looking at a certain product and you probably intuitively start thinking about the technology, how it was done, you start analyzing, breaking it down, learning something from it. Does this kind of observation, watching movies and cartoons, help you? Does it have certain influence on you? And if yes, then could you name the authors? You mean the authors who inspire me, right? Yeah, what do you watch? What inspires you? What inspires me? Well, everything. In fact, I cannot say that I'm specifically inspired by animation. I want to do it because this is something that I'm good at. But also literature and films can inspire me. I would not give a piece of advice, but I'd like to say to children and teenagers, if you like a cartoon or a character or technology, I would recommend you reading more about it, see what else was produced by these authors. This is what I was doing. For example, I liked some animated TV series. Among them were both European and Japanese works, which I respect a lot, because I believe that the Japanese achieve such level of professionalism that you can learn a lot from, such as Miyazaki, Satoshi Kon, Masaki Yuasa. Maybe they are more for the grown-up audience, but I believe that this is an example that demonstrates how with the help of an animation you can 100% cause some emotion. So this kind of works are what inspires me. You know, a good work is probably something that achieves its goal, that conveys a message that the author wanted to convey. So yeah, everything can inspire you. That is why I recommend doing different things. And of course, all of these things, so if it is an animation, then you have to draw and paint, read comic books. I've read hundreds of them back in the day. It inspired me, and it also had an impact on my style of drawing. So you have to simply absorb all of it, and then it will be of help. And if we're talking about the technical side of animation, not everybody can say depict some movement. You have to understand how it needs to be done, how a certain turn is being done, or how something should fall. Where did you learn that? Well, I think that you simply start feeling it, but in the beginning, you just look at how others do that. You know, you start looking at how others do that, and then you suddenly realize, oh, so this is how they did it. So you are looking at some tutorial videos. Yes, tutorials, for example. I think Arthus is one of the partners or sponsors. There was one book by Richard Williams that is dedicated to animation, and there you can find a lot about frame-by-frame animation, how you do things. You open it and you see that you have to do that and you're gonna do a great job. And of course there are lots of tutorials now. Of course it depends on what you want to see, but now you can find any kind of tutorial. But of course tutorials, advice from professionals and experts in the field, or friends. Say if you have some friends, you can also discuss it with them who are engaged in the same field. Do you keep in touch with other animators? Whom can you ask for advice or ask them to criticize your work? In the first place, it also is the same studio, Stepan. But other than that, I don't really keep in touch with lots of people lately. You probably are ready to move to other country. Well, it's not that specifically. Just that lately with the lockdown and everything, everybody has their own business that they have to sort out. So, yes, I'm been on my own a lot. We have some time, so we can keep talking. Our viewers are not that active at the moment. If you have any questions, then please send them to comments below our video and I will read them out loud. Yes, please do so, it's easier for me. And I have one more question about the festivals. Your attitude towards the end result. Say when the film is being demonstrated at the festival, Do you like sitting and watching your film, or do you run out of the room? I do run out of the room. Well, at Linell was just sitting, and it was for the first time, I'm like, oh, here it comes. That was the first time when it was shown on the large screen, yes. But after that, I try to always get out of the room, out of the auditorium. You know, I can also stay and watch it, but how do I put it? You just you're thinking, why didn't I do it in a different way? And why didn't I do that in a different way? And then I'm looking at, well, actually, it's not that bad. I did a good job, a good job. So it depends. But I'd rather watch somebody else's film because there are so many things that I haven't seen. So I open up the list that I have, or you go online and you see so many things that are so impressive that I better watch something done by somebody else. There are lots of beautiful, pretty things, very artistic ones. Well, to put it short, there was lots of different things. And also, in the festival program, we have 250 films, if I'm not mistaken, that you can also watch. And Egor also recommend you watching them today after you come back home, all 250. Well, you're not gonna have enough time to watch all 250, but I think it's gonna be good for you, definitely. When you're watching 1, 2, 3 films, you will probably find something that will grab your attention, and it can lead to some new ideas. Does that happen often when you're walking in the street or doing some routine thing, and then you come up with an idea for your animation? Does that happen with you, that you come up with an idea and then you implement it? Or do you do it in a different way? Do you have to draw the storyboard? How does it work in your case? Well, it depends. The ideas that came up to me very often came up in conversations when you just feel a sudden inspiration. You sit down and draw something. But talking about animations, like seriously sitting down, well, I better prepare for that. For example, when I was animating characters, 2D characters at the studio, I first was drawing them, what they should look like, and afterwards I animated them. So animation, I try to approach it in a more serious way so that I can focus on it and to be completely working on it. One more question by Roman Zvankovsky. Thank you. Did you experience burnout in work? And if yes, then how did you overcome it? Of course. It did happen with me, and it still happens with me. How did I overcome it? Well, I once heard that the best type of relaxation is doing something completely different. I don't know whether this is true. You know, sometimes it came really spontaneously, and it could end as spontaneously. Sometimes the support of a family would really help me cope with that. My family is extremely helpful with all these things. They are probably even more confident about me rather than I am confident about myself. Watching films, reading books, I don't know. Going for a walk. I like walking. Going outside, just looking around, enjoying it, and thinking how good I feel. That's it. You start feeling better right away. Sometimes it is a burnout that is also combined with some unpleasant feeling of like, oh my god, everything is so scary, I'm so incapable of doing anything. And then when you're done with your work, like it worked, then you breathe out and you realize that it actually came out quite good. And how do I put it? To give an advice, well, it's quite a serious thing. That is why I'm not sure what exactly can I say. It all depends on the situation. There is one more question. How do you overcome creative crisis and look for motivation? Say you've overcome burnout, and what motivates you next? I think that you should pay more attention to what we're doing subconsciously. Quite often, we can sit over the sheet of paper and think, what am I gonna draw? What should it look like? And then you start drawing, and then you don't like it, you rip it apart and throw it away. Sometimes you're just sitting and your hand just starts drawing, and you're like, wow, I guess I really like it. And this is probably something that I should do. Some things that we're doing subconsciously, something that we don't really pay attention to. But quite often, this leads to some really in-depth idea. Not necessarily in-depth idea, it can be a shallow idea, but it seems to be an in-depth one. And then with the help of these associations, you can try looking at what could have impacted that. Maybe somebody else's work, maybe some comic book or a cartoon. There also are lots of impressive works that help you really feel better, and you can find them in filmmaking, in literature. Sometimes they can be quite sad, but at a certain point in time they can be of help. And there are some films that are aimed at a broader audience, but there are different films that help you to start moving in the right direction, the one that inspire you to live and to create. You have to pay attention at the things that are coming out of you subconsciously. One more question. What is the main source of ideas for you? Some images from literature or some works by other authors? We have touched upon it, but maybe you could be more precise. Works of other professionals or images from literature. What inspires me, right? I think both inspire me. I love the images. When I come to the studio, just fun, and I say, I recently read this and that, and there were some really nice images, and maybe I should implement it. And he says, this all is good. But when you work more, these images are gonna come to your head on their own. And before that, you probably should see some images elsewhere to process this information so that you can also create something of your own. By the way, this can be both, because also many books are turned into films, and you can compare them, and maybe you can try doing something even better compared to the one who turned a book into a film. In literature, you can really see lots of different feelings, and when you draw it, you are expressing that. So this is quite an interesting question. I don't know the exact answer to it, though. One more question. A question about mentorship. How important is it for you? Do you have the will to do something on your own, or are you still at the stage when you every time come to Stepan or to other people whom you respect and ask them for a piece of an advice, their approval? Or can you do something independently the way you want to? I can do that, but I think piece of advice is still very important for me. What is the thing here? That you can ask whether you did a good thing. And one more thing, competition. And I'm not saying that I'm gonna rip you to pieces right now because you did this and I did that, let's start a fight. I now am on my own, and sometimes it is difficult for me to understand in what direction I'm headed. I do things, sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't like others, sometimes I'm really happy with what I do. But when you're working with somebody else, your peer or some professional, and you see how they do it or how somebody else does it, you can look at them and say, oh, this is interesting and that is interesting. Maybe I would like to also try using this technique. So this is not even recommendation, but rather self-analysis. So you can understand what is trendy, what is not, how this person does it, and how one more person does it. And it allows you to choose what you would like to do. But of course, you have to know how to implement the things that you want to implement. But piece of advice is also important, or probably also criticism or praise from people whom you respect. How important is it for you? For example, a person whom you respect praises you, and it can lead to passion within you, or does it not happen?
When I had an exam at Gobelins, one of the directors was just looking at my works and she says, "You had such wonderful things in your profile." And I said, "Oh, it's so pleasant. She doesn't know me, I don't know her, but she saw my work. And already objectively having seen, well, I don't know whether she was really objective, but she was the person who has seen already hundreds of works from different students from different corners of the world. She saw my works and she said, those are nice works." So that's a kind of a professional's opinion. So of course it was pleasant for me. So yeah, sure. Appraisal, yes, the feedback. Or a recommendation and a piece of advice, the criticism is important as well. It's necessary. I can see there are more questions. Is there any sense to invest into the professional education to get the courses, or is it more efficient to feel the skills on your own? Well, I think it depends on, well, I don't know, just education itself. What's its big advantage is that you create the educational atmosphere, that you are surrounded by the people who are interested in that, who are working in this sphere. But first of all, still, this is your own experience of what you can do, what you want to accomplish. So this is the first and foremost. I think there are lots of examples of the people who deal with animation without having special education. Well, those who are self-taught. Well, out of the people who I know, Katya Voznitsia was never a student of the university named after Karpenko-Kary, but she creates nice auteur works, and Petrivka Requiem is what was the best, what really touching at the Ukrainian program of Krok Festival, both the sound and everything. I was very happy when I saw it. It's really cool. As an example, depending on the education, the same concerns goblins. They give you the different anatomic and proportional drawings to practice. So if you want to have the skill, depending on what you want to achieve, what you want to have as a message, whether you want to become an animator and to make the non-narrative movie, but to create it as more of a abstract one? No, not the abstract one. I know that animation can be found anywhere, at the websites, on the TV. It could be found anywhere, so those could be, well, just purely interactive live website. Lots of animation details can be found anywhere, so animator as a profession, when you just move the objects, could be anything depending on what you want to accomplish and to achieve. If you want to draw something a la Disney animation, when of course you need to study, and it's highly desirable in some high educational institution. But if you want to do something auteur and to move in this direction, then maybe it's not your key profession. You just do that, and you have the nice professional outcome. Professionally, you can find your own style, and then it will be assessed and estimated, and you will finally achieve it. I haven't still achieved it, I'm still the beginner, so I cannot give any advice and recommendations, well, yes, do like this and like that. those are some thoughts, like, my thoughts are silent, that Ukrainian nice movie. Yes, Yegor, I'm so thankful to you for such a romantic and a bit of, well, your narration, your story is a bit of an inspiring one. So, first of all, you're doing that with your own example, with your own way. What you have already had as an outcome, you entered the French university, so I do wish you to have nice studies and tuition process further on, because this is a nice example for all of the rest. So in this way, you can understand that the studies, animation studies, exist in Ukraine. They exist from scratch, from when you are even 8 years old, and later when you can enter the high educational institutions or some specialized courses. And by the way, as for this tuition, I'd like to make you aware that since today we've got the workshops which we've prepared, and they were in a kind of a closed access. Since today they're totally open, with the open links, with open access, and you can find those links coming to our website of the Festival of Linoleum, into the chapter The Children's Program, and there you can find our workshops, which are rather interesting. Those are the workshops from Stepan Koval, whom we've mentioned today, from Rodion Shuba and Katerina Voznitsa. Rodion Shub and Katerina Voznitsa. So, Igor, thank you again that you joined us today, and all the viewers and spectators, we wish you a nice day, a nice mood and inspiration. Thank you.